More disaster relief, less FEMA support. How people feel about the changes President Trump is considering after today's visit with Helene victims in Asheville.
More biomanufacturing jobs are headed for southern Wake County. We'll show you why Amgen decided to double its capacity here in Holly Springs coming up.
We're finally thawing out. I'll have the newest timeline for Arctic air to move out and warmer temperatures.
Let's start with that. It's the moment we've all been waiting for, this warm up just in time for the weekend. Thanks for joining us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty.
And I'm Ashley Rowe. Temperatures still in the 20s tonight, so watch out for some icy spots on the roads. But come Sunday, temperatures jump into the 50s. Kat, could that be enough to melt the rest of the remaining snow and ice?
Oh, for sure. We're going to be warming up throughout the weekend. You'll get some sunshine all day long tomorrow to help. But let's talk about tonight first. I want to let you know we're about to talk about warmer weather, including temperatures in the 60s next week, but you still need your jackets at night. Tonight, we're going to be falling quickly, likely by 10 o'clock into the upper 20s, so make sure you've got your coat with you tonight. 48 for the high tomorrow, 54 on Sunday. We still start out Sunday morning with a low of 29, though, so just keep that in mind. Make sure that you still have your coat on hand. By 10 a.m. up to 40, 2 o'clock, 54, and then by dinner time back in the 40s. But those 60s are on the horizon. We now have not 1, but 2 days in the 60s on our 7-day forecast. I'll let you know how long it could last coming up.
All right, Kat, this is Brian Schrader in the WRAL Live Center, and all new at 7 o'clock. We just got some video in from that overturned propane truck situation in Moore County. Take a look at the flame there as they're trying to bleed off the propane that is still in that truck. This is all happening on Linden Road in the southern part of, or just south of Pinehurst Lake, south of Pinehurst itself as well. You can see where they are working to get this cleared. This process started around 2:30 this afternoon, and crews tell us that this could last 6 to 8 hours, so it may be a few hours longer until they can get all of this cleared up. The latest that we're getting from officials there is that Linden Road remains closed in that area. We know that the driver of that truck had to be flown to the hospital, where we're going to find out more about the extent of their injuries.
Quite the video there. Thanks, Brian. President Trump spent the day in western North Carolina, where he didn't just criticize FEMA's response, but also floated the idea of ending the agency altogether. WRAL's Carly Haynes joining us now live from Durham, where FEMA has set up a small facility. Carly, you're looking at what people think about recovery efforts right now.
We have reconnected with some of those victims, as some members of FEMA came from this facility in Durham to western North Carolina to aid in that disaster response. And today we really got a good sense of where people stand in their recovery after that natural disaster. President Donald Trump was touring devastated areas in western North Carolina today. While there, he said he plans to reform FEMA and may get rid of it altogether. We spoke with one Helene survivor who lost the majority of his belongings to flooding. Brad Edestad just received his FEMA funds 2 days ago. He welcomed the idea of changing the current disaster response, one that allows people to get help more quickly.
These people are in desperate need, and that needs to be realized within a week or two, not 3-4 months later, is what I would suggest whoever's listening, whether it's the local government or the federal government, is you need to act quicker. And you need to have people on site helping and have a plan. There is no plan right now.
And Trump has suggested leaving disaster response to the states.
Holly, how much did FEMA actually cover for that man?
Well, he didn't provide a dollar figure, but he did say that FEMA reimbursed him up to 1/5 of his belongings. He also, fortunately, did have some flood insurance, which covered about another 1/5 of his belongings. But so many people, as we know, in western North Carolina don't have flood insurance because they didn't think they'd ever need it. So they're still out hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, it's so heartbreaking. Okay, thank you, Carla.
It is tough to hear, but we should now roll through some of the other big headlines from tonight. Here are the 5 things you should know right now. In the last 5 minutes, Durham police identified a suspect after a man was shot and killed at a food truck. Henderson Munoz Valencia is charged with first-degree murder. This all happened around 1 p.m. on Highway 55. Several food trucks parked in this area, and today police had the whole parking lot taped off, as you can see in the video. Investigators say the suspect and victim did know each other. An intersection in downtown Cary will stay closed a little longer because of a water main break there. Crews blocking off Hunter Street and Waldo Street for a water line upgrade. They were supposed to wrap things up today, but that water main burst. Now they need to fix that and continue to finish the other work. The intersection will now be closed through the middle of next week. Highway Patrol says a driver, oh my goodness, that video. A driver slammed into a house in Hoke County, hitting a chicken coop. These are some videos and pictures here of that scene. This is Chasen Road. They haven't said if Slick Roads played a role in that. Check out the aftermath. The driver did drive away, they say, from that scene.
I don't know how the chickens are doing. U.S. officials say soldiers from the Army's 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Liberty are planning for possible deployment to the southern border. An order hasn't been given yet. President Trump did call for a second wave of active duty forces at the border. The town of Apex is working with a review firm to assess utility bills after a cybersecurity attack last summer. Starting next week, the firm will begin billing simulations. They'll compare those bills to the ones issued by the town and see if there's any difference in the amount charged. Hundreds more biopharma jobs are headed for Wake County in the next few years. Amgen cut the ribbon today on its new manufacturing facility in Holly Springs, also broke ground on another one. WRAL's Laura Leslie shows us why Amgen is expanding again in the Triangle.
Amgen makes drugs for conditions like heart disease, cancer, and high cholesterol. They say global demand for those drugs is rising quickly.
It's next-generation manufacturing for the next generation of drugs, biologics made from living cells. Amgen CEO Bob Bradway says Holly Springs will be a major player in producing them.
The plant we're inaugurating today is the most technologically advanced biomanufacturing facility in our network. And that's saying something.
Amgen cut the ribbon on that new plant Friday, and it also broke ground on a second plant at the same site. Amgen VP Esteban Santos said demand for the drugs is growing faster than earlier predictions.
We took another look at the long-range plan, and we decided that we needed more capacity, that we needed to make further investments to ensure that we have the ability to bring our life-saving medicines to patients around the world.
The planned investment at the site now totals $1.5 billion and more than 700 jobs. The company considered building the second plant in Indiana, but Amgen North Carolina Vice President Paul Lewis said they already have a strong partnership with local governments here.
And then certainly in this area and more broadly just the surrounding area, workforce. The focus that North Carolina and this area has on workforce development is absolutely incredible.
The latest expansion was also aided in part by local and state incentives that could total tens of millions of dollars, including a customized advanced manufacturing program at Wake Tech. The first factory is already up and running. The second is expected to begin production in 2028. Laura Leslie, WRAL News, Holly Springs.
This weekend's On the Record, we tackle the cost of living, specifically how taxes factor into the equation. I mean, if you think about it, we are taxed on a lot. Before you're paid, when you're paid, again, when you spend what you're paid, when you buy a car, then for the registration, again, for the license to drive it, the gas to drive it, the tolls to drive on the roads, the parking meters, lots of taxes. But there was one really unique tax. Property tax. We'll discuss it. Johnston County did a big reevaluation, you may remember, on all its properties, and they reported a huge increase, 70% on average. Some property owners saw their value more than double, and that could spell trouble for some folks.
Residents can suffer especially when they're long-term fixed income residents, seeing the values of their properties go up along with their tax bills.
So when you're faced with this sort of thing, when you hear about this, you have questions. Of course you do. So did we. Why are home values going up? Will tax bills follow suit? How does this process work in the first place? And what can you do about it? This weekend, we go on the record to make sense of it all for you. We learned a lot, and I think you will too. So join me Saturday at 7 p.m. on WRAL.com or on our WRAL YouTube page after it airs.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a good one. President Trump wants the Department of Interior to figure things out for the Lumbee tribe, get them the federal recognition. We've seen this one before, so what's different this time? Not all Republicans support this, especially some in North Carolina. Let's talk about the ins and outs and whether this move could bring a casino to our area.
Among the many orders and memos President Trump signed this week was some serious support for the Lumbee tribe. He says he wants them to get federal recognition. He's not the first president to say this, by the way, but could his actions this week mean things could be different this time around? I spoke to WRAL reporter Brian Murphy about it. Joining me now is WRAL reporter Brian Murphy. So, Brian, you have covered this story with the Lumbee tribe and their efforts to be recognized throughout most of your career. Does this memo from President Trump feel like a turning point? We've seen some support from presidents in the past, but this has been a little bit different. How is this different, though, at all?
Well, this is the first time that a president has really thrown his full force and weight behind it. Biden, Obama, even Trump in his first term gave lip service to this process of making full federal recognition for the Lumbee. But this time, President Trump has really put himself out there on this issue, said, I need a directive, a plan within 90 days. So it certainly feels different.
Trump, he makes some waves, right? And he puts the people who align with his ideas in place. The incoming person nominated to be the head of the Department of the Interior is one of his guys. Could that person change the rules, make it easier for the Lumbee so they don't have to go through Congress, something they have failed to be able to accomplish many times before?
Yeah, Doug Burgum, who is the former governor of North Dakota. North Dakota is a state that has a lot of Native American tribes. States with established Native American tribes have been reluctant to allow the Lumbee to get into that club. That would divide up benefits. The Lumbee would be the largest tribe east of the Mississippi. When you look at Congress, the Lumbee have failed to get it through that way. So now they could take a look at going through the Department of Interior. However, in the past, the Lumbee have failed that way as well. A lot of objections from other tribes about who the Lumbee actually are, their history, their bloodlines, whether they're a combination of many different tribes. So I think either way will be difficult, but having the weight of Trump behind you certainly makes it easier.
Let's say that weight is enough. Let's speculate a bit and say this actually happens for the Lumbee. What types of changes would we expect to see, maybe in forms of even a casino?
Yeah, I think the biggest benefits to the Lumbee would be federal funding, right? Health insurance, governmental autonomy, other benefits that might come from the federal government. But yes, a casino would be part of this. They would still have to work out a compact with the state, but there would be far less strings attached to it. We've seen the Catawba and the Cherokee open casinos in this state. They both have full federal recognition.
Now, support has been there before, especially in the form of Presidents Obama, Biden, Trump, first time around, all made statements in support of the Lumbee. There's bipartisan support in the House and Senate in a lot of ways. Both of the senators of North Carolina support this, but it really always has the same sticking point in the Senate by a lot of these states out west that have large Native American populations.
Yeah, and it's not just out west. Chuck Edwards and Virginia Foxx, who represent North Carolina, but represent far western North Carolina, where the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians live, are against this. They have both come out against it. They have not supported this bill in the past, the Lumbee Fairness Act. But you're right, out west, where there's lots of Native tribes and lots of senators have good relationships with those tribes, don't want to see those voters go against them. They have blocked this time and time again. It'll be interesting to see, with the Senate controlled by Republicans and Trump coming out in favor of this, if it's enough to get it over the hump.
We will be paying attention. We'll see. Ryan, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, well, we'll see what happens. As for this weekend, we know what's going to happen weather-wise, and I am looking forward to this change of pace.
We've been in the 30s for much of the week. We were in the 40s at least today, but it's been cold this week for sure. And even the temperatures tomorrow are going to feel pretty good, even though we're only in the 40s. And then Sunday, really feeling good again. Now, just remember, you still need to have your coat on hand this weekend. Even next week, when we're in the 60s, it's still going to be chilly at night. So keep your extra layers handy. If you're headed out to dinner tonight, a late night dinner, maybe grabbing drinks after, you're going to want to have, a coat with you. Temperatures are going to be in the low to mid 30s, and the cloud cover moving out should really allow temperatures to tumble once we move ahead a couple of hours. We're down to 22 for the low by tomorrow morning, upper 20s Sunday morning. Next week, still in the mid 30s at night, and then temperatures dip again toward the end of the week. But we've got the warm up coming, so let's talk about why. We've got this dip in the jet stream that opened up the door for all the Arctic air to come pouring into the southeast. But that U shape in the jet stream that funneled all that cold air in, well, we're going to see that change. It kind of levels out over the weekend, and with that, we start to warm up on Sunday. Notice the shades of blue not so deep, temperatures not so far below normal. And then as we look ahead toward the middle of next week, that is when we go back to above normal temperatures again. 55 Monday, 60 Tuesday, 63 on Wednesday. It is very normal to see high temperatures in the 60s during the month of January here. We actually average 6 to 7 and some years 8 days in January where we've got that many 60-degree days. So, this is our first one of the month so far, and that's pretty unusual. I think a lot of people are looking forward to it. 37 degrees outside right now. As we look ahead tonight, look at this. We're already down to 28 degrees in Roxborough. You're likely to be in the teens, 28 in South Hill and 27 in Rocky Mount. Already down to freezing in Southern Pines and 28 in Goldsboro. So it's already pretty cold out there. It is going to be chilly overnight with lows down in the teens in Roxborough and South Hill, as I mentioned, 20 in Southern Pines and Rocky Mount, 21 in Durham, Raleigh, and Fayetteville. Tomorrow afternoon, we're back in the upper 40s, at least for our highs. In the morning, too cold for the playground probably. But once we get to lunchtime, I know a lot of kids have been inside or stuck inside with the snow days this week. Maybe a good day to get out there. 43 and in the direct sunlight, it really shouldn't feel all that bad in the upper 40s during the afternoon. It's not going to be terribly windy, so you're not going to be dealing with a big wind chill or anything like that. In fact, we've got our southwest wind building in, and that is going to help us reach the 60s. 60 degrees Tuesday, sunshine expected. Wednesday, the warmest day of the week, 63 the high. We're watching, the European model introduced a small chance for rain on Wednesday today. It's the first time we've seen it, and it's only one model run, so we're not going to add rain chances in just yet. But toward the end of the week, temperatures are likely to back off, so try to make the most of Tuesday and Wednesday while you can.
We sure will, Kat. Today marks 25 years since 20 inches of snow dropped on the Triangle. At least we didn't have to deal with that this week.
Yeah, my goodness.
Up next, we go into the WRAL archive to revisit that snowstorm and the storms that came before it. Those stories right after the break.
But first, with our own snowstorm clearing up, let's get you ready for the weekend. Here's what's going on out and about.
Well, this week was all about the snow, something we could all relate about, right? The second winter storm in our area this month. And this one was a lot more fun than the one that we saw a couple of weeks ago, don't you think?
I agree. The one was a lot of rain and ice and freezing. This was a great time. School got canceled, sledding at Dix Park. Just under 2 inches of snow on the ground, so you get just enough, but it's not insane, you know? I liked it.
Well, what made this storm special was the amount of snow at the coast, right? 9 inches at Kill Devil Hills, something they won't forget. The Triangle hadn't seen snow like this for a long time, and many of you remember the major snowstorms of the past.
And one in particular. Maybe you've lived here long enough. There was this one from 1979. A little over 10 inches fell in Raleigh. Just a year later, even more snow fell, 11 inches in 1980.
A lot of folks remember the snowstorm of 1996. Oh, that's so fun.
Cute.
Wasn't quite as dramatic, about 4 inches in the Triangle area. There were other big storms, 2002, 2005, but of course the big one happened 25 years ago today, Snow 2K.
The Triangle got, and I find this almost impossible to believe, more than 20 inches of snow here in the Triangle. It's crazy. On the storm's now 10-year anniversary, WRAL's Bill Leslie captured the size and scope of the storm. Tonight we want to leave you with that story from a decade ago from the WRAL archive.
Thank you for making WRAL your choice for local news. Here it is, your Friday moment of nostalgia.
The record snowfall of 2000 paralyzed planes at RDU International. It kept big rigs from rolling on I-85 in Durham for hours. It snowed so hard, buses couldn't budge.
We slept on the bus last night, and looks like we're going to have to sleep on it again tonight.
No power. No hot water.
The snow knocked out power to more than 100,000 customers in the Triangle. It got so bad the governor declared a state of emergency, called out the National Guard, and urged everyone to keep their cool.
This is tough. This is the toughest part of it right now, but we'll get through it if we use our heads and don't do something crazy.
Hundreds of businesses closed for days. Durham imposed a curfew. Many schools were shut down the entire week because of icy roads. Raleigh has since improved its snow removal plan, but a 20-inch snowfall today would still cause big problems.
All right. The thoroughfares and bridges will get scraped in a day or two, but the neighborhood streets are going to be icy for a long time.
When it snows like it did 10 years ago, you just stay home and enjoy it.
The one thing I do recall is I asked my son not to drive the car. And when I came home after work, of course, that's the first thing he and his friends had done. They've been all over the county sliding around having a great time.
Bill Leslie, WRAL News, Raleigh.